Hello, you wonderful people. I am Amy, or AWayfaringFrog, and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. It has been a while since we did one of these. I've had a bit of a break, so I am back. I've been wanting to play The Sims for quite a while, and there was just a lot going on with work. It got really busy, I just didn't have time to play The Sims, and then in my free time I just got really keen to do other things. I've got so many hobbies, too many hobbies. So I wanted to work on my crochet and also just play some other games rather than The Sims. So I have taken a bit of a break, but we are back with another elemental fairy build, which I started doing. I've already done the earth one, which is on my channel. It's more of a hobbit housey build, and I did put up a poll a while back to get everyone's opinions on what they wanted to see, and obviously Earth did win, which is why I did that one first, but Fire was very close behind. So we are actually doing the Fire Fairy build today, and we're on the Caldera camp lot, which is in Sulani, so that's the world that came with island living, and it's actually a volcanic island, and you might be able to see a volcano in the background. And I felt like this was the perfect place for a fire fairy. I wasn't really sure where else to do it, to be honest, but it was one of the things that made me think, yeah, I really need to do elemental fairy builds. It was originally inspired by some Sims that a really close friend of mine, Lucy Malloy, did. She made some Sims that were all very elemental themed, and I ended up using them kind of just to have a look at them and also kill two birds with one stone, which is a really horrible phrase, but I thought I'd use them to playtest a build a while back, and while I was looking at them during my playtesting, I just thought, these look so cool. I really want to do builds inspired by the elements kind of for these fairies. So that's what has inspired this kind of mini series. So I will link the earth build down below if you want to check that out, but as I mentioned, we're now on the fire build. As you can see, I tried doing a bit of a tower thing here, so it's kind of castle-y. I do shrink it as I'm doing right now. I just didn't like how big it was. There's something about the towers in The Sims 4 that can just look a bit iffy. What I really wanted was for it to gently slope to be bigger at the top, but not like a platform around it. I don't really know how to describe it. If you've ever seen A Nightmare Before Christmas, I feel like the buildings in that kind of explain what I mean, where they start off really skinny and then just build out, but in a slopey way, not just like a step-by-step way. But you just can't really achieve that in The Sims 4. So I ended up shrinking the size of the tower, and I think it looked really cute. I wasn't so sure about the balcony around the edge of it for a while, but I think it ends up working. I do keep changing the fence that I use on it, so I don't always show that on camera. You might just notice it suddenly changes once in a while. And then for the wallpaper, I used this Realm of Magic brick, which is a really nice kind of deepish red tone. Although I do feel like orange is more fiery, in my opinion, rather than red. So there's quite a lot of orange outside when we get to the landscaping. And then the other brick, which you might notice when it hits the light in game, it kind of looks really sparkly, and I thought that was fun. It reminded me of like embers on a fire or something. And that one's from Jungle Adventure. It's just the stonework, and I guess because Jungle Adventure has some almost like mystical things going on, because you're going into these like tomb areas and having a look at like booby-trapped spaces and stuff, and I guess it's just trying to, I don't know, get some kind of mysticalness about that across in the aesthetics of the assets in that pack. But that is a fun game pack. I do enjoy that particular one. And now we've pretty much got the exterior of the build sorted. I just added a bit of a bump out onto the right hand side, so there was a bit more to it. And I wanted to make sure to add lots of greenery in, because Sulani is very green in this particular part of the world as well. It's on the Muar Palam area, and there is some gameplay tied to that where you can have your Sims work to kind of help rejuvenate the space, and it gets a lot more greenery and a lot more flowers as you go. So at the moment I just came into this in a fresh save, so there's not many flowers surrounding the lot, but if you did decide to live here and work on it, you can definitely make the surrounding areas look a lot more lush and pretty. And yeah, I think it's quite a fun bit of gameplay in island living. It's a shame the mermaids aren't that fun. But anyway, this is a house for fairies, so we don't need to worry about mermaids. But obviously you can use whatever occult or whatever sim you want if you did want to play on it. And it is available on the Sims 4 gallery just under my EA ID, AWayfaringFrog. It's also under the hashtag AWayfaringFrog, and the information for that, including the lot value and various other aspects of the lot, are in the description down below. So be sure to check that out. I am adding some more vines now, just again to bring in more of that greenery. And it is a fully playtested build too. There's a bit of an rocky archway that I'll put towards the side yard a bit later. And when I was playtesting, I realized the Sims just couldn't walk under it. The hitbox, despite it being an archway, just was all over that particular object. But thankfully, I've had this issue before where I've put some kind of a fence piece. It was a circular fence piece, but the grid squares on it covered like a 5x5 zone, even though this circular fence was only on the perimeter of that, and it meant that your Sims couldn't walk anywhere within that 5x5 area, if that makes sense. But a great tip is if you just go down into the basement, so you just hit page down on your keyboard, or just use the keys on screen, and then place the item down in the basement but raise it up, so you'll need move objects on and then control and the 9 key, and then it will raise up onto the ground floor that you can see here, but it thinks it's placed in the basement. And so what that means is if there is a hitbox issue with it and your Sims struggle to walk through it or near it, that won't be a problem anymore, because as far as the game's concerned, it's not on the same level as the Sim. It's just visually on the same level, but all of the I mean, I don't know much about programming, but all of like the interaction-y parts of it are down in the basement. And for this particular build, there isn't a basement, so there wasn't really a problem with that. But anyhow, we are now just landscaping, and you can now see the rocky archway that I mentioned. I did add a bit of a border to the rest of the raised area, and I used the tool mod to kind of sort out where I wanted that to go, because a lot of the debug items really love jumping up to the tallest height that you've got for the terrain, which is really frustrating. So I find the tool mod super useful for that. Although I really need to update it. I think I kept getting messages whenever I get onto the game about better build by needing an update, and I just haven't bothered. So I should probably do that at some point, because it will start to become a problem. If you are interested in any of the mods that I use though, you can just find them in the description down below. The Better Build By and the Tool Mod are both by Twisted Mexi, and I really recommend them if you like building, because it just really helps cut out a lot of the limitations that you can have. So you can rotate objects, although I don't do that very often because I'm not very good at it. And you can also more acutely resize objects, which I find so useful for rugs. And then obviously if you do have a terrain issue and your items are jumping up, the way that you can just move objects up and down is so useful. So I really love that mod. But now we are jumping inside briefly. I did cut out a bit of the floor plan here because it took me ages to figure out the stairs, just due to the shape of the build. There's a lot of hexagonal spaces and you can't put stairs on a diagonal. So I was struggling with that. And then on the second floor in particular, there's just a lot of kind of triangular shapes going on, and it was a bit weird. So there's a main stairway up to the second floor, and then there's a ladder to the third, and the third floor encompasses a separate kind of kids play area, and then because there isn't a walkway between that room and the other room on the third floor, the other one is the primary bedroom. And then you can go up again in the primary bedroom to the top floor, and that's the ensuite. I did make sure to put toilets in the 2 bathrooms in this house, because even though fairies don't actually need bathrooms, they don't need to use the toilet. They do need to shower, but they can shower in plants. They just get their hygiene up by, I don't know, rubbing leaves on their bodies, I guess. I'm not really sure how it works. It's kind of cute though. And they can also bathe in sinks. I think they'll just turn really tiny and then they can just jump into a sink like it's a bath, which is also really cute. I do love the animations with fairies. So you don't technically need a bathroom really, and especially with Enchanted by Nature, I guess you can just use the natural living skill and have your Sims sleep outside. So who needs a house these days? But I did make sure to put a toilet in despite fairies just absolutely not needing them at all, because again, I figured if you did want to download it and wanted to play in it with other Sims that aren't fairies, and even if your fairies have non-fairy guests over, it would be helpful to have a toilet. So I made sure to include that. And now I'm just sorting out the back garden a bit on this raised portion. I think it's really cute. I like how it looks like it's built in. Something that I've always struggled with The Sims 4 in terms of terrain manipulation is that everywhere is so flat. And then you have this very limited grid square to be able to manipulate the terrain. And I often find that I think it's just a problem with me. I'm just not good enough at making it look natural and purposeful, so I don't do it very often. But with the Enchanted by Nature pack, I feel like the builders who worked on the builds that come in that pack, they did a lot of terrain manipulation and were really good at it and made it look so purposeful that I keep wanting to try myself, which is why I figured I'd raise some of this build up on a little platform here for the back garden space. And there's something about, well, it's a volcano. I feel like it would be hilly and rocky. So I think it makes sense. And I do hate the way that the kind of terrain looks if you raise it up really high, but you don't have something covering it, which is why I've bordered it with the rocks, which are all from the Island Living debug. So it ties in really well with the rest of the world. So I hope you agree and you do like it. We are now done with the exterior of the build though, so I'm jumping inside and using this really lovely wood floor, which is from Jungle Adventure. It's one of my favorites, and it felt kind of, again, because this is a fire fairy build, so every time I put an item down, I was like, okay, does this suit a fire theme? And this one felt a little bit charred, like, I don't really know. You know when you get sort of burnt wood, and it's got that kind of funny texture to it. I don't really know how to describe it, so hopefully you know what I mean. But that's what I sort of saw when I looked at this flooring. It kind of looked a little bit charred, which I liked. And then I started decorating the kitchen after I figured out a bit more of the layout, and I used these Life and Death worktops because, again, even though I said that I find orange is more of a fiery colour than red, we didn't really have any nice orangey counters, at least none that weren't just ultra modern. And I thought this was a good in-between. So I did try to bring in some orangey tones elsewhere with all of the gold accents. And I end up switching the colour of the stools on the island a bit later to be more of a browny beige swatch rather than black. Again though, black was quite a heavy theme throughout because fire, burning, it all goes into like a carbonated state, so I felt like black was a good accent color to have, but I didn't want it to be a super dark build. And so the wallpaper, I ended up using one from high school years. As you can see, it's just a tile with a nice really fancy top, because again, this felt like a fancy-ish kind of castle-y home, so I wanted it to look quite high-end. And I'm just cluttering up the kitchen a little bit here. You may be happy to hear that for once I didn't really use much of the kitchen clutter kit. I'm not even sure I used a single item from it, which is new to me. Yeah, I don't remember what I was thinking back then. I actually decorated and built the build a couple of weeks ago now. I was just really struggling to find the motivation or even just the time to finish it, which is why it's taken so long for me to upload another speed build. So I'm really sorry, but thank you for being patient. It really does mean a lot to have your support. And I really hope that it was worth the wait. It was a lot of fun to build. I am super excited about my next one though. A while ago, I built kind of a frog museum. It was part of my career-inspired build series where I thought that I wanted to create a build inspired by making money through frog breeding. And I recently got a comment from the lovely Lala Lizzie, who suggested that the build that I used as inspiration for that frog museum, I should try it and recreate it, but using the glass walls, because the original inspo pic had a lot of glass wall to it, but it wasn't really doable in The Sims 4 at the time I built that, so mine looks very different to my reference picture. But I think that's such a fantastic idea, and I haven't been able to use the new like the boot room kit. I've forgotten what it's called now. Like the mudroom kit. I haven't used that yet, and I feel like it would work really nicely as like a modern kind of cabin style. And with the announcement for the new expansion pack, which is some kind of summer camp thing, I feel like having a little modern cabin in the woods will be quite themed with that. So I kind of want to try it. And so thank you so much, Lizzie, for that wonderful comment. It's definitely given me inspiration for my next build, so I'll probably be uploading that one next week. I have just talked over a lot of the build though. The dining room, I did a bit of a corner sofa, so it's not actually connected to the table. Your Sims can sit there, but if they eat food on the sofa, they'll kind of have it just in their hand. They won't put it on the table, but then the chairs around it are fully functional. And then I just did the entryway, which was quite simple, just added a bit of clutter and some decoration. There is also one of the walk-in wardrobes from Get Together. So a nice little woohoo spot and just a fun extra item for gameplay purposes, as I think your Sims can play dress up with that and things. And then the living space is a little bit weird because it's a funny shape. So I ended up creating this kind of fireplace desk room, which also has a games table. Love this games table from the Don Lothario kit. Don't massively love that kit because I'm definitely more of a builder than a cast person, but it has both cast and build stuff in it, so it's kind of limited in the build items. But the ones that do come in it, I love. I also used the record player, which is in the dining area from that same kit. So it's really nice. And I thought that was quite a cute little space, and that leads into the living room, which we're just decorating now. I didn't include a TV in here because it just didn't feel very in keeping with the theme. And then the back door was opposite where the sofa would need to go. And I just didn't feel like there was anywhere else that I could put the sofa and organize the living room for there to be a TV. So I figured I'd just leave it, honestly. There's plenty for your Sims to do. They live right next to an ocean. They can just go swimming for fun if they want. I feel like you don't need a TV in every Sims build. A computer, however, that is a bit more important, which is why I've put a little desk into that kind of games area with the fireplace. And I made it a bit built in. I did this when Life and Death first came out, and I think it looks really effective. Those bookshelves from Life and Death kind of combine really nicely with the desk from that same pack to make a bit of a built-in book or a built-in desk area. So I thought that was a cute little nook space to use in that room. And now just finishing off the living space, I used this beautiful dragon rug. It's got a lot of fiery colors in my opinion, and of course dragons are just kind of synonymous with fire, so I had to use that in this fire themed fairy build, and just adding a few bits and bobs. I feel like I probably didn't add as many activities in this room as I could have in retrospect. Maybe adding a knitting basket or the cross-stitching kit in here would be nice for your Sims, but I don't think I thought of it at the time. But just whenever I see a rocking chair in The Sims, since they originally came in nifty knitting, I always think crafting. But I don't think I got around to adding any crafting items aside from the kids' crafting table, which we'll get to. It's one of the last rooms that I do, I think, when we decorate the upstairs area. I'm just adding in some more tabletop plants. I still haven't played that much actual gameplay, and as a result, I haven't really experienced the whole indoor plant thing. But I swear that they feel too decorative insofar as I thought there was gameplay tied to them. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of gameplay tied to them if there is. I do think that they die if you don't water them, but I've never had the option to water these indoor plants yet, so I don't really get it. I have had one in my Enchanted by Nature Let's Play, and my Sim is living outside, so every time it rains, I guess the houseplant is getting water anyway, so maybe that's why I haven't needed to do anything with it, but I'm still a bit confused. But anyway, we are now decorating the ensuite of the master bedroom. I did decorate some hallways and the main bathroom off camera, and then this ensuite is largely the same as the main bathroom. It just doesn't have a shower because I couldn't fit one in really due to the shape of it. But I did include some Life and Death assets, so this bathtub and this red sink, as well as the toilet from Realm of Magic, because it's got those gold accents that just tie in really well with the gold accents of the other items. And then even though it is a fire fairy build, I just love having plants everywhere. I really feel like it helps break up the space, and I didn't want it to look overwhelmingly red. So I did add plenty of plants in. Just adding some curtains here and there. These sheer ones from the Desert Luxe kit are some of my favorite curtains. I really do like them. And I think they pioneered the whole having a curtain rod separate to the curtain, which is fantastic. I wish every curtain that the Sims team add to the game came in those two separate items. It's just so useful. But just adding a bit of clutter to make it look way more lived in and just full. I did like the idea of it being cluttered, and these little mushroom items, which I ended up dotting outside a bit earlier as well, they just have such a fiery look to them. So I made sure to use those in pretty much every room. Definitely all of the bedrooms have them, and as you can see, this bathroom does as well. The door as well to this bathroom and the other rooms in the house is actually from the movie Hangout kit, or stuff pack, sorry, that was before kits came out. I think it's such a cute little door. It's got a very orangey wood tone on this particular swatch, which I usually don't like, but for a fiery themed build, it was perfect. So I used that. We are now in the master bedroom though, and it's a little bit tight in here because it is a hexagon space, but I managed to kind of work around that using this big Realm of Magic bed. So a little bit tight with such a big bed. I think it just looks bigger because it's got the canopy to it, but it is normal sized for every other double bed in the game as well. And then just added a few little wardrobe pieces here and there, as well as a little bench under this window, which I thought was really cute. And that one is also from Life and Death. It's just got some really nice red swatches from that pack. I feel like a lot of red swatches in this game are super intensely bright, but I kind of prefer that more muted, almost slightly pinky tone of red. It's much more my vibe, so I do really love that pack. And if you haven't seen it already, the build that I did for Morgan Ember, my favourite townie in The Sims 4, who is very synonymous with fire being the sage of untamed magic, I made an entire house in Tartosa for them, and it was very drenched in the colour red, and Life and Death was just perfect for that. So that was a lot of fun. Be sure to check that out if you would like to see that. And we're pretty much just done here with the master bedroom. I'm just adding a few more decorations in here and there, again, to make it look more lived in. And I just think it looks so much more fun being really cluttered. I do love clutter in The Sims 4. It's probably not great for your computer's performance of the game, but it looks so cute. So until my game lags so much that I do need to start thinking about dialing back the number of items I put in a build, I'm going to keep going. But let me know if you've ever had an issue with the number of items in a build before, because I'm kind of curious. I'm so bad at playing The Sims 4 in that I don't really do generational gameplay because I get so attached to my Sims. I just make them live forever. So I don't often get like super big game files because I don't have a long line of ancestors for my Sims. And I've heard that can massively contribute to slow performance of your save file. But I just haven't really experienced that. So then the only other thing that I've heard about is big item count or lots of different types of wallpaper. So I'm not sure. My computer is pretty good, so maybe that's why I haven't had much of an issue, but I'd be curious if anyone else has. So let me know in the comments if that has affected you at all. I'd be curious. And then maybe I can factor that into my building if need be. But we are now jumping into the teen's bedroom. And I was really keen to have a teen and a child in this house, so I decorated rooms for those life stages, because it still bugs me that Enchanted by Nature didn't come with a single bed. It came with every other bed, even a crib for infants, and they were very themed around Enchanted by Nature, but nope, nothing for just a kid. So they're gonna have to sleep in the massive double bed, or just have a bed from a different pack, which if you only have base game and Enchanted by Nature is so sad. But I think I combined it well here. I used the one from high school years in this particular teens room, and it still has that kind of fiery theme, very charcoal-y in colour with the blacks. And then I brought in a lot of the orange tones again with those little mushroom shelves. I also brought in this big stuffy because I think he's so cute, and I'm still a big kid. I still love stuffies. I crochet in my free time. I'm forever making cuddly toys. And yeah, I feel like there's nothing wrong with a good cuddly toy. I also added a laptop into this room. It's the one from Dream Home Decorator, as well as a camera and some tarot cards, a football, and a little notebook for your sim to write their bucket list items. I don't know if teens can actually write bucket list items, but the main goal in this room was I just wanted lots of activities for your sim, so you didn't get bored playing and there was just lots to work on with it, and they all felt kind of like applicable skills. Oh, there's also a guitar. Honestly, the sim is like me. They have a lot of hobbies, probably more than they can actually keep up with in their spare time. But luckily they're still a school student, so they don't have the 9 to 5 pain just yet. But anyway, I'm just adding a bit more teenagery clutter. I wanted to make it look a little bit messy, so I grabbed these clothes that go on the floor from high school years as well. I also added an open book as if they were doing their homework, and threw a few more clothes under the desk. And then I thought maybe this sim is also interested in chess, because I added the little chess trophy thing, the one that's shaped like a horse's head, and then I discovered the actual trophies in the game, which is just behind the freezer bunny on the shelves above the island living bench, and I just thought that was a bit of fun, like they've been in a competition and won. I mean, maybe chess isn't a hobby, maybe this kid is just, or this teen is secretly an absolute genius and didn't even try, so you can tell whatever story you want with them, but they do have a lot of hobbies. And now moving into the kids' bedroom, I ended up using this canopy bed, which is from Seasons. I think the colours worked for the theme, even though it's a bit more yellowy than orange or red. There is still some orange in the canopy, and it still felt kind of fairy. So again, I think these are pretty good bed choices to use instead of anything else in like base game or Enchanted by Nature if you want to have a kid, because oh, I'm so infuriated that they didn't give us a full set of beds. I'd almost prefer that over having like the bassinet or the infant's bed, because I feel like, well, you do have kids more often insofar as they live as a child for longer. You don't have an infant or even a newborn for that long in the game because they'll age up quite quickly. So it just seems so odd to me that they've prioritized that over a kid's bed. I really just wish they'd scrapped one of the others. And then there's like more mystical, rustic looking beds for toddlers in other packs, like werewolves, but the werewolf kids bed is a little bit too worn down looking. So anyway, I'll shut up about that because I think I bang on about it too much, but it is such a pet peeve. But as you can see, we've pretty much finished decorating the actual kids' bedroom here, just adding in lots of clutter and some more of these fairy lights, which they're either from Seasons or the free holiday pack. I can't quite remember which. And then upstairs is where I put most of their activities. So we've got the little toy box, which is from Enchanted by Nature and looks like a cute little acorn. I really love it. I made sure to add the science table and the little crafting creativity table because they're just so useful from a gameplay perspective if you have kids. And I also added the marble mat. I didn't playtest that mat, to be honest, because I just didn't have a kid in the household that I was playtesting with and I couldn't be bothered to go get one, I'm not gonna lie. But I think it should be functional. If it's not, you could always swap it out with just like a poof for them to sit down on instead and move it elsewhere or just get rid of it altogether. So I didn't really see it as much of an issue. But we are now pretty much coming to the end of the speed build portion of the video as I just add in a few more fairy lights. And then the plan is to jump into the game briefly and I'll give you a bit of a tour of the finished build before we move into screenshots. Okay, I'm a little bit worried that my game is broken. It's just loading and doing nothing else. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna have to restart yet. Hooray, we made it. So this is the build. I thought I'd keep it at kind of sunset time because I really think it helps emphasize the fire aspect of the build. And so let's start down in the garden. So there's this lovely archway, which as I mentioned is, okay, you can't see it because there technically isn't a basement. But if you go into build mode, it's technically placed down here. So there's no issue of your Sims walking underneath it. This table is from Batu. It's one of the few things I think are actually good from that pack. And then we just have a nice little fire pit and placed a grill as well as a fairy house out here. And then background to the front, we've got our little mailbox and some stairs up to the main front door. And in here is that just little entryway, which I was just yakking over. I can't remember what I was talking about now, but it's got all of the necessities, a nice big mirror for you to check how you look before you head out. And then into the kitchen, we've got this lovely life and death kitchen with a little island. The dining room, I did end up adding that little flower press item here as well. And then you've just got a nice little place for music. And I really do like doing this with the corner sofas. I think it's such a fun piece to use. Kind of wish that tables would slot to it, but hey, you can't have everything. And then into this kind of midway space, we've got the fireplace as well as a nice little games area. And then there's the desk with the kind of built-in effect that I mentioned, where I've just scooched the desk into there. And then into the living space, we've got lots of plants, lots more bookshelves, and just a nice place to chill, listen to music, and read a book. And then going upstairs, this is the hallway that I didn't show on camera. It's fairly simple because there's not a lot of space. And then off to the left, we've got the main bathroom. So it's got a shower with very shoved into the wall screens here, but your Sims can walk through that smallish gap in order to be able to get to the shower. And then we've got the bathtub and everything. But otherwise, it's kind of a similar layout to what I did show with the ensuite on camera. And then into the teens room, very kind of chaotic, messy, but in a nice way, I think. And it's got lots of fun little items like these two pieces from from Lovestruck, which have a cute little fiery theme, which I really liked. And then the kids' bedroom, we've got this more yellowy themed room with a few posters and this little void critter item. And then upstairs, they've got all of their little games and toys and things, which are just really cute. And I quite like that it's separate because I personally really don't like how the science table looks. And then over into the master bedroom, which you can access from this tiny little room here to get up the ladder. We've got this lovely Magic Realm bed and lots of shelfy pieces for more clutter, more decorations, and a nice little bench to sit by the window, which I think is quite cute. And then upstairs in this other ladder, you can get to the ensuite. So this is the one that was shown on camera. So the same as the full bathroom, but just without the shower. And you can also get out onto this balcony, but there's absolutely nothing here. So it's more for screenshots, I guess, if you wanted to take any. But that is the full build. And it is, as I mentioned, right next to the volcano here. So your Sims can enjoy the lot challenge of having the volcanic eruptions if you so desire, which feels like it would make sense here. But thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and enable notifications so you'll know when I next upload a video. I'll leave you with the screenshots. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye for now.